Good afternoon. A man is dead and 3 others are injured, including one critically following a crash involving 2 vehicles in Scarborough.
It happened late last night in the area of Shepherd Avenue and Vandorf Street. CTV's John Musselman has been following the investigation. He joins us live now from the scene with more. John.
Well, Michelle, you're right. This was a devastating crash. It happened just behind me here on Shepherd Avenue. We've had a chance to speak to some neighbors this morning. They say it was a very loud bang. We'll show you some video from last night, the impact here. According to police, we have a car that was traveling northbound on this section of Shepherd Avenue. It crossed the center line, struck another car head on. A passenger in the car that had crossed the center line was pronounced dead, a man in his 40s. Another person was injured. 2 people in the other car were also seriously injured and taken to hospital. Now, neighbors tell us they heard this loud bang. They ran outside and they saw the smoke and the debris all over the road. At least 2 neighbors immediately called 911. Paramedics had shut down the area road here. They say it was very difficult scene to see. The people who were wounded, at least 2 people were lifted out of a car and placed on the grass. Here's what 2 of the neighbors we talked to had to say. One person didn't want to appear on camera, but here's what they had to tell us.
We heard the crash, and that's what made us come outside, and it was a very, very loud bang. Some of the victims who were being helped out of the vehicles by some passerbys, they were lifting them out. So the girl was lifted out, and she was put on the tray.
I immediately ran out to see if I could help in any way. As I was approaching the second car, there was gasoline on the floor, smoke, and a spark of fire. So then I decided to call the police right away.
Just a couple of things to pass on here. Neighbors also talking about speeds on Shepherd here. It's posted at 60 kilometers an hour, but residents we've spoken to say people seem to be going much faster than that. As for the cause of this accident, Toronto police say it is still under investigation. No charges have been laid at this time. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. A teenage boy is fighting for his life in hospital after a fight between 2 groups ended with a stabbing last night. Police called around 7 p.m. after 2 boys suffering from stab wounds showed up at a hospital near Wilson Avenue and Keele Street. One boy had critical injuries while the other had non-life-threatening injuries. Police say it's unclear where the stabbing happened. They're searching for a single suspect. Another boy described as standing roughly 5'5" with curly black hair with brown ends. He was last seen wearing Nike track pants and black New Balance shoes.
One person was injured in a shooting on the 401 in Mississauga overnight. Peel police say the victim pulled off the highway around 12:15 a.m. and drove to a gas station near Credit View and Britannia to call police. They were taken to hospital with minor injuries after being struck by debris from a broken window. The eastbound collector lanes of the 401 were closed from Winston Churchill to Huron, Ontario this morning, while OPP investigators collected evidence from the shooting scene. The highway has since reopened. Police have not provided any description of the suspects or vehicle involved, but say they believe there's no threat to public safety.
The OPP is investigating a collision involving a dump truck in Scugog. This happened on Highway 12 between Scugog Line 12 and Scugog Line 14 shortly before 7 a.m. Ontario Provincial Police say a dump truck collided with a car in the area, sparking a fire. Police have not provided any updates on possible injuries, and the cause is under investigation. Still to come on CTV News at noon, the summer concert series at Rogers Stadium kicks off tomorrow. We'll have everything you need to know a little later in the newscast.
The Toronto District School Board has appointed Camilo Cipriano as its new CEO. Cipriano recently served as Director of Education and CEO of the Niagara Catholic District School Board, where he'd been working since 2020. His first day at the TDSB will be June 8th. Stacey Zucker, who served as Interim Director of Education at the TDSB since the end of 2025, will become the board's new Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operations Officer.
Council has approved a pedestrian pilot project that will see a portion of Church Street closed to vehicles for 2 months.
The pedestrian-only area will run from Wellesley to Alexander Street. CTV's Mike Walker has been gauging reaction to the plan and joins us live with more details. Mike.
Well, the stretch of Church Street that will be pedestrianized is only a 2-block stretch, and it's inspired by a similar move done in Montreal. Now, Councillor Chris Moyse, who pitched this idea to council, says similar measures have been in place here before for festivals like Pride and Halloween. Now, starting on June 19th, Church will be car-free between Wellesley and Alexander until August 21st. All east-west crossroads will remain open to traffic. Now, this will coincide with a number of events in the city, including Pride and the FIFA World Cup. Councillor Moyse has said it will improve road safety, increasing accessibility, and driving sustained commercial activity. Council did pass an amendment to this pilot that stipulates the closure can be canceled at any time on the basis of unacceptable impacts or concerns related to public safety, security, traffic, and emergency response times. A lot of people here in the village are excited about this move, but we're also getting some mixed reaction to this with concerns about congestion. Here's more.
I think it'll draw people into the neighborhood, which is good. I mean, it's going to be harder for the traffic, but I think they've made a good decision.
For the summer, it's a wonderful idea. It'll get people active and out.
I've seen it done in Montreal in the summer as well, and it was really nice for like all the businesses on the street, and it makes it more walkable.
Just don't think there's enough traffic on the street, like walking traffic to pedestrian traffic, to warrant it. And I think it's just a nuisance for people having to go to Yonge Street or to Jarvis Street to go around it.
It's a great idea in theory. I would love to see more patio seating and more pedestrian walkways in the village. At the same time, I think the city really struggles with traffic.
Now, I just spoke with the executive director of the BIA, who believes this will help increase business. He points to evidence from Montreal, which showed revenue there increased by 83%. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Meanwhile, council voted to reject a referendum question on the Ford government's plan to expand Billy Bishop Airport. The motion was put forward by councillors Diane Sachs and Josh Matlow. They wanted a question to be put on this fall's municipal ballot, asking Torontonians whether the city should cooperate with the Premier's plan to allow jets at Billy Bishop Airport. Councillors voted 16-9 against the motion. The Ontario NDP is planning to introduce a motion aimed at making groceries more affordable for families in the province.
The announcement made at a local supermarket in Scarborough this morning. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has been following this story. She joins us live now with the details. Siobhan.
Well, Michelle, this is a reflection that we are paying more and more for the food that we put onto our plates every night. And so the Ontario NDP is trying to make a difference on that front. A lot of the food in this grocery store is already tax-free. There's no tax on your basic things like fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat. But the NDP would like to go further than that. They're proposing to remove the HST on prepared food as well. So your rotisserie chicken that you might grab for a quick meal on your way home from work. This is something we've already seen the NDP in Manitoba do, introduced in their recent budget, and Marit Stiles says she's seen great success in that province that she'd like to replicate here. The NDP believes that this would save families hundreds of dollars depending on what their dietary habits are. They're also proposing to make it harder for big box grocery stores to push out smaller competitors. Here's more of what they had to say.
If you're a working parent, you're coming home after a long day. Increasingly, people are working harder, longer days. They're going to pick up, maybe a little fried fish, some noodles, a few things to help make it a little easier when they get home to feed the family. This is what this is going to impact the most.
If this bill passes, we're going to see more competition. Leases will not allow grocers or other people selling food to prohibit anyone around them from selling food as well.
And this is something that MPPs will pick up when they return to the legislature on Monday. We know the government will face questions on this, but also changes to FOI and release of information that has been guarded. We know that the government has reportedly instructed public servants not to release any information through FOI. That's something that Marit Stiles finds troubling. She's asked the Secretary of Cabinet, essentially the chief public servant in Ontario, for answers. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. A new Liaison Strategies poll finds the Progressive Conservatives and Ontario Liberals tied among decided and leaning voters. The number suggests if a provincial election were held today, the PCs and the Liberals would each receive 37% of the vote. Meanwhile, the Ontario NDP sits at 20% support, with the Green Party at 4%. The cost of living is the top issue for Ontarians, with a majority saying the cost of groceries and housing was causing the most financial stress.
Well, let's talk more about costs. There is some relief for drivers at the pumps to kick off the weekend. Prices fell by roughly 9 cents overnight. Canadians for Affordable Energy President Dan McTeague says the cost of gas is expected to drop another 4 cents tomorrow. That would bring prices down to roughly $1.80 a litre at most GTA stations.
Markets are reacting, within a microsecond to any rumor or comment that's made by President Trump or comments regarding the potential for a ceasefire or a peace agreement. All this week, we've been talking about, prices dropping as a result of what could be a clearing in the Strait of Hormuz someday. Now, we've done this, and I'm counting it, 8 times. Where, the job owning, as they refer to it as by the president or someone within the White House, has markets in a lather, believing everything's going to be fine, and suddenly we realize it isn't.
McTeague is also predicting diesel prices will drop by 5 cents Saturday.
The summer concert series at Rogers Stadium set to begin tomorrow. The CTV News Shopper was over the venue in North York this morning, where crews are setting up the first of 5 shows by Bruno Mars. He's set to take the stage tomorrow night. With rain in the forecast, Live Nation is reminding people to dress appropriately because the shows will go on, rain or shine. People heading to Rogers Stadium for a show this summer are being urged to take transit, as ticket holders will get free TTC rides after each concert. However, getting to Rogers Stadium may be more difficult for those planning on taking the GO train. There will be no service at Downsview Park on the Barrie line on May 23rd, 24th, or the 30th. Metrolinx says that the tracks will be shut down for expansion work. Meanwhile, there will also be no GO train service on the Lakeshore West line between Aldershot and Union Station this weekend because of track upgrades.
Well, warmer days are upon us when we're talking about outdoor concerts. A live look at the city this afternoon. There's some sunshine mixed with cloud today. Could be warmer, could be worse. Lindsay Morrison joins us with the details. It's one of those days you could do a coat and be comfortable or not. It really depends if you run hot or cold.
Well, here's what I suggest you do, Michelle, and that's enjoy the conditions today, because we are in for a bit of a wild weekend weather-wise. As mentioned, there's rain in the forecast and quite a bit of it. It's also going to be windy and cool. So the temperature right now, 14 degrees, doesn't seem so bad compared to what could be coming for tomorrow. Winds are out of the east. That's going to stay the same through the weekend as well. And the winds are a little bit gusty already. So yeah, that light jacket might come in handy because an easterly wind isn't the most pleasant to feel. We have had a bit of an increase in cloud cover. It will break up a little bit through this afternoon. So again, enjoy the sunshine and be mindful of the fact that today we are at an 8 on the UV index. 15 is our forecast daytime high, below seasonal, but we're almost there already. Here's what's coming. Significant rainfall for your Saturday. We'll talk all about it, give you an idea of how much is in the forecast coming up. But for now, Michelle and Nathan, I'll send it back over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. W5 has obtained exclusive data that shows thousands of people who work in Canadian airports have been granted security clearances despite being flagged for potential risks.
One of them is a suspect in Canada's largest ever gold heist at Pearson Airport. CTV's Avery Haynes has the story.
This happened inside Canada's busiest airport. Tens of millions of dollars in gold and currency is just loaded onto a truck and driven away. An audacious heist that police say relied on airport insiders. 2 Air Canada employees are among the 9 people accused in the 2023 heist. We've learned that one of them, Parmpal Sidhu, was flagged in 3 separate drug investigations at the airport dating back decades. We got our hands on a sensitive intelligence document that accuses Sidhu of being the leader of an international drug trafficking ring, moving large loads of drugs through Pearson Airport and infiltrating legitimate government organizations for the purpose of carrying out their criminal activities. Now, that was in 2012. We don't know if that information was ever shared with his employer, but we do know that Sidhu kept his job and his security clearance right up until the gold heist in 2023.
Our job is to identify those potential corrupt employees that are enabling organized crime groups.
Ulysses Botello is a retired RCMP officer. Now he's a whistleblower. It was his job to warn Transport Canada about airport employees who should have their security clearances revoked. He says his recommendations were repeatedly ignored.
If you want to associate with organized crime, if you want to engage in illicit activity, you can do many other things without having that restricted airside card.
Are you telling me that you have actually flagged employees who have connections to organized crime to Transport Canada and they have maintained their pass security?
It happens.
It happens is a very concerning answer.
Of course it is.
We collected exclusive data from Transport Canada showing 125,000 security clearances were approved at Canada's 4 major airports over a 5-year period. A staggering 7,500 employees were flagged as having some kind of security issue, but were given clearance anyway.
The numbers that are being presented to Transport Canada that are of concern versus the numbers that are being allowed to retain the restricted airside cards are concerning to me.
Botello says he's also concerned that he never could find out how many were high-threat employees.
Nobody can give me a straight answer as to how many of those numbers were mission critical. In other words, enablers of organized crime. I couldn't get that information.
Despite repeated requests, Transport Canada would not categorize the level of threat of those granted security passes. In a statement, they write, adverse information does not automatically equate to a transportation security risk. Avery Haynes, CTV News, Toronto.
And coming up a little later in the newscast, we'll be speaking with Avery Haynes about her investigation into the country's airports.
Albertans will be voting on the idea of separating from Canada this fall, but not directly.
I will be requesting our government add an additional question to the October 19th referendum vote announced previously. The additional question will be, should Alberta remain a province of Canada? Or should the government of Alberta commence the legal process required under the Canadian Constitution to hold a binding provincial referendum on whether or not Alberta should separate from Canada?
Albertans were already scheduled to vote in a provincial referendum this October. However, the plan to put a question on separation on that ballot was struck down by a judge earlier this month following a ruling that the group Stay Free Alberta failed to consult with First Nations. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says a referendum to vote for another referendum would allow her government to take steps towards an actual vote on separation without falling under the judge's ruling. CTV's Jeremy Charon has been following this story. He joins us live now from Ottawa. Jeremy, that's quite the question there. I had to read it a few times. Help us better understand this.
Yeah, Michelle, it is not a simple yes or no question. And I think that is the whole focus of this today is the framing of the question and the way in which the Premier has decided to pose the question that will be added to the referendum in the fall. And it is not a simple yes or no question. The question asks whether you want to stay or you want to remain as a province in Canada or initiate the steps to then move forward on an actual referendum for separation. So really this is a referendum question ahead of the official referendum if this referendum question were to pass. So it gets a little complex here, and the Premier is facing criticism today as a result of that. The group Stay Free Alberta, which is the group that received 300,000 signatures in a vote to try and put a petition forward, or putting a petition forward to get a referendum question on separation. They are in favor of separation, have criticized the Premier for not asking a simple yes or no question. The group, there's a group on the other side of this, the Forever Canadian group that has received 400,000 signatures. They also want a question to be asked, a referendum question, but they are in favor of remaining in Canada. Both of those groups reacting today to what the Premier had to say. Here's more from both of them.
I don't want to separate. I think we're fine just the way we are.
We have, as Albertans, are getting the short end of the stick.
All the Liberals, they're nothing but backstabbers.
I think it's just going to redouble everybody's efforts to buy UCP memberships, sell UCP memberships, have a special general meeting, and then have all of these issues, including her premiership, revisited.
Leadership is about making difficult decisions for the good of the country, even when they are from time to time not popular with your own political base.
And so ultimately what we will see as a result of this decision by the Premier Michel is a question posed in the fall referendum that will be kind of a preliminary gauge as to whether or not there's enough support to then trigger a proper binding referendum question afterwards.
Well, we've heard from the Prime Minister this morning. What implications are there for the rest of our country if a separation referendum were pushed to a ballot and voted in favor to separate?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to gauge exactly what kind of an impact this could have because we've never seen it happen before. The Constitution doesn't allow for a province right now to just, unilaterally decide to separate. So theoretically, if we were to reach that point, something would be triggered, and then there would be negotiations between the Premier or between the Premier of Alberta, the Prime Minister, and the premiers from all of the other provinces to determine a path forward. And ultimately, we don't know exactly what the impacts would be, but the Prime Minister insists in reacting today that Canada works as is. Here's more from Prime Minister Carney today.
We're still going to be working on making Canada even better. I look forward to working alongside Premier Smith, alongside the Leader of the Opposition, alongside all parliamentarians, all 37 members from Alberta, and Canadians of all stripes, Albertans of all stripes, to build a better Alberta, build a better Canada.
So certainly still many steps before we start to have that conversation, Michel, about whether or not Alberta will vote to separate. But surely we will start to hear more voices outspoken against this, which we have not heard much of so far, as we are now one step closer. There will be a question about separation in the referendum in the fall in Alberta.
CTV's Jeremy Charron live for us in Ottawa. Appreciate you breaking all this down for us. Have a great day.
Yeah, of course, you too.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister posted a strongly worded statement indicating that Canadian activists on a flotilla to Gaza were treated badly after being detained by Israel. Anita Anand says on X, "I have just received information from my officials which details the appalling abuse of Canadians who were detained in Israel. These Canadians have now arrived in Turkey. Global Affairs consular officials are on the ground, are ensuring that they receive urgent medical care as required so that they can return home as soon as possible. Canada unequivocally condemns the grave mistreatment of Canadians in Israel. Those responsible for this egregious abuse must be held accountable. We will continue to provide additional information as it becomes available." End of quote. Now, 12 Canadians were among 420 people on 41 boats intercepted by Israel. There's been widespread outrage after Israel's national security minister posted video of him taunting the activists while they were kneeling with faces to the ground and their hands bound.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Secretary of State said today there's been some progress towards a peace deal with Iran, but additional work is needed.
I wouldn't exaggerate it. I wouldn't diminish it. There's more work to be done, but look, yeah, there's been some, and that's a good sign. I'm glad they said that. We're not there yet. I hope we get there. The president would prefer to do a good deal. You asked me if I'm optimistic. I don't characterize it as optimistic or pessimistic. We're going to respond based on the facts as we see them.
Marco Rubio insists the core concern remains that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he says the future of Tehran's uranium enrichment needs to be discussed, as well as reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The secretary warns if Tehran does not cooperate, Donald Trump has made it clear he has other options.
The U.S. president has surprised NATO by announcing he will send 5,000 troops to Poland.
It has nothing to do with what happened over a couple of weeks ago when they announced the number of 5,000 with regard then to Germany. That's totally separate from it. But I cannot say too much because it is highly classified.
The news came just weeks after Trump ordered the same number of forces pulled out of Europe. The apparent change of mind came after weeks of statements from the White House about reducing the American military footprint in Europe. That resulted in allies pondering what forces they might have to backfill on NATO's eastern flank with Russia and Ukraine.
The World Health Organization has declared the Ebola outbreak in Congo and Uganda to be a public health emergency of international concern. Officials also say the outbreak in Congo is spreading rapidly.
We're now revising our risk assessment to very high at the national level, high at the regional level, and low at global level.
The risk within the Democratic Republic of Congo was as previously considered high. The WHO says 82 cases of Ebola have been confirmed in Congo, with 7 confirmed deaths. The agency also notes there are now almost 750 suspected cases and 177 suspected deaths in total, though the situation in neighboring Uganda is considered stable.
The Pentagon has made public a second batch of declassified UFO material. Today's release includes more than 50 documents and videos. So far, over 200 files have been declassified. 2 weeks ago, the first batch, dating back to the late 1940s, was released. They've already been viewed more than 1 billion times worldwide.
Well, happy Friday, everyone. Lots going on in the city this weekend. The Jays are back in town. I think it's unlikely that the Dome will be open just yet, but maybe you want to head to a patio this afternoon or evening. Here's a look at what you can expect condition-wise. It is another cooler day, but we hope to get at least some sun in the mix through the afternoon and early evening. Tomorrow, a bit of a different story, and if you're headed to that Bruno Mars concert, I just might suggest that you pack a poncho or two. It is going to be particularly rainy. It's also going to be cool and windy, but of course, the fans will still be there regardless. Lots to talk about when it comes to your weekend weather forecast. We'll show you when we return to seasonal next week and when the sun will be back out again. That's all after this break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, looking at the forecast, and the next few days look pretty good overall, except tomorrow.
I feel like this upcoming weekend weather-wise, is this our punishment because we had such incredible weather for the long weekend?
I'm really grateful that our long weekend was last weekend, because if it had been this weekend, like our neighbors stateside celebrating Memorial Day weekend, I think there would have been a few disappointed folks, and I wouldn't blame you for that. It's a pretty unsettled looking weekend, wet, windy, and cool on top of that. Our below seasonal trend continues at least for another couple of days, but there is light at the end of the tunnel in your 7-day forecast. Let's get to it. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Here's what our city looked like early this morning. A bit of sun mixing with a layer of cloud. It's not a cloudy day by any means, but some of the high level cloud is going to veil that blue sky a little bit, but we should see more in the way of sunny breaks as the afternoon continues. But yes, certainly a little more cloud today compared to yesterday and the day before. Here's what's coming though. So we're starting to see the leading edge of our rainy system for the weekend stateside, and that's going to make its way north toward us here in southern Ontario. The wet weather gets going tomorrow morning, and it's going to be with us for the majority of Saturday, lingering into Sunday morning, and then departing and giving us a drier Sunday afternoon. There's around 6 p.m. tonight, so some cloud, some sun, a little cool, but overall not bad. Into tomorrow morning, if you're an early riser, you might be able to run some errands before things get really rainy. By mid and late morning, we are into that wet weather. It continues pretty steady through the afternoon and into the evening. And the pockets of yellow and orange that you see here, not necessarily a thunderstorm risk with this one, but some heavier, steadier rain. And it continues through the night, the overnight as well. That's 2 a.m. into Sunday. And then Sunday morning, chance of showers, yes. Maybe some sun, though, before the day is finished Sunday. So, yes, improvements and slightly warmer, too. Monday, bit of cloudiness, but we are going to start getting back into a drier weather pattern. Now, the numbers have been fluctuating a little bit, but generally speaking, it's looking like maybe 20 to 40 millimeters of rain for us here in the GTA. So that's pretty significant. Just be mindful and maybe stay away from any rivers, streams, waterways. They could be running higher and faster than normal. It's 14 degrees right now at Pearson Airport. Tonight's low is going to be about 11 degrees, which is actually seasonal. Here's the thing, though. We're really not going to get any warmer than that for tomorrow, and that makes it end up being a day where we are about 10 degrees cooler than normal. We're also going to be dealing with this unpleasant easterly wind that could be gusting to near 50 kilometers per hour. So temperatures in the low teens just about everywhere, mid-teens for some. Your weekend forecast, again, warmer for Sunday afternoon, 20 degrees, but it's not going to be a dry, sunny day. That does come, though, a little later into next week. So Monday's still a bit cloudy, but look at the middle of next week, mainly sunny skies and daytime highs back in the mid-20s. That's your weather for now. Michelle, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Now to an investigation that could change how you travel. W5 did some work looking into exposing passengers that are unwittingly helping travelers move massive quantities of drugs through Canadian airports.
W5's Avery Haynes is here to talk about this disturbing discovery, organized crime working at the airport. And I know you looked at the data yourself that you managed to gather. What did it show you?
17 times this past year, innocent Canadians have been detained, sometimes in foreign countries, accused of smuggling drugs because of bag tag switching. And I brought a little prop to show you exactly how it works. So you go to the airport, you check in your bag, and one of these tags is put onto the bag. In the airport, after you've said goodbye to your bag, in a blind spot of security cameras, a corrupt employee is removing the bag. I mean, look how easy it is. Right. Taking this off and putting your tag onto a bag that's filled with drugs. Then they take your bag and the drug bag and they put it on the plane. It makes it to its destination. You go and you pick up your bag and you say, oh, it doesn't have a tag on it, but you don't think much about it. Somebody on the other end has been tracking it with an air tag. They pick up the drug bag and they leave. The problem, which happened 17 times that we know of this past year, is if that drug bag is found along the way, now all of a sudden you're left explaining, sometimes in a foreign country, why is it that your name is associated with this bag that is filled with drugs?
It's a nightmare situation. You feel so bad listening to those people who unwittingly got caught.
And I want you to listen to a clip of one person who I think is echoing the feeling that many people have who are travelers about handing over your bag. He's a victim of this scheme.
It's a relatively simple expectation that my luggage, as I hand it over, arrives at the point of destination without any problems. Also that it's not linked to any crime.
So in order to do this kind of reporting, you have to speak to whistleblowers, people who are willing to kind of unveil what's going on. And what have you learned about the extent of organized crime at Pearson and Canadian airports?
So at Pearson, through court documents, through intelligence reports that we've seen, and through whistleblowers and police sources, we know that 4 major crime groups are operating at Pearson Airport. The Mafia, the Asian crime gangs, Hells Angels, and cartels. And what's happening is that they are paying corrupt employees to move drugs. And obviously there are lots of people who are working at the airport who are good, honest workers, but there are some that are being corrupted. And I spoke to a former police inspector, Dieter Boheim, who says that he also sat on the Airport Intelligence Committee, and he says what concerns him most is that if drugs, and we know that it's happening, if drugs are being facilitated to be put on planes, what else could be put on a plane?
Could be anything. Of course, you'd want to remove those blind spots. That'd be one solution. Any other solutions being presented?
Yeah, well, I want you to listen to what he has to say, because it is actually quite a concerning point that he raises about security surrounding the employees.
So if you think about it, if I can put 10 kilos of cocaine on an aircraft, I can use the same process and put 1 kilo of explosive on that same aircraft. It's a big concern for passenger safety.
Yeah, it's a major concern. I was just traveling a few days ago, and I put the tag on thinking everything is fine. But there are some solutions, thankfully, to hopefully stop this.
There are, but I think that the big thing that we have to recognize is that when 9/11 happened, it changed the way we as passengers travel. We're subjected to all kinds of security. The people we've spoken to in our investigation shows there needs to be an equal reckoning for the security surrounding the people who have access to planes and luggage. A quick fix for this, if anyone who's been to a concert, you know how hard it is to get those wristbands off because they're scored. The fact that this can so easily be tampered with is an issue. We've uncovered, and you'll see in the documentary tomorrow night, real issues with the screening of employees in terms of the people who are given access to secure areas at the airport, with connections to organized crime, with connections to drug smuggling, with connections to violence, still having their access cards, as well as the fact that CATSA, that's the agency that screens us when we go to the airport, they're also responsible for screening employees. They don't have a mandate to search regularly employees leaving the airport. And we know from our investigation that there's a clear path from the plane to the parking lot if you want to get drugs off a plane.
Yeah, you would think a search would be a minimum because you're working in a place like, you know, the biggest airport in Canada. Okay, so I know people are watching thinking, well, what can I do? How do I protect it? I hand over my luggage and I could be a victim. Is there anything you can do?
So this is, first of all, I only go with carry-on because my bags always get lost anyway. So I go with carry-on. But if you have to check something, at the airport, take a video or picture of you with your bag to show that what your bag looks like at check-in, as well as your tag, preferably as it's being weighed. So you can say that my bag weighed this amount, this is what it looked like, as evidence for if you're stopped in another country. Luggage trackers are always good because you can show what bag you're associated with. And then some people I've heard now, since our reporting, have started stapling their bag tag so that if someone tries to remove it, it would be impossible to put somewhere else.
Oh. Do you know if undercover officers are trying to infiltrate these security officials at the airport?
I know that there have been cases in the past. There was a big sort of crackdown on this in the early 2015 or so. There was a big undercover operation, but we really have identified generational issues and people who have kept that really important security pass despite being flagged in numerous investigations. We have some exclusive news that's coming out that involves Canada's largest gold heist, and one of the employees, Air Canada employees, police have called it an inside job, who had repeat flags of issues surrounding connections to criminal activity.
Wow, incredible reporting.
Always something. Avery, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, the 1 hour special, Traffic, the Airport Conspiracy, airs Saturday at 7 p.m. on CTV Crave and will be live streaming on W5's official YouTube channel. All right, we've got more news after the break. Stay with us.
The Tempo were unable to extend their winning streak to 3 games when they took on the Minnesota Lynx last night.
Kia Nurse. Mabry. Again, shedding the D off the glass.
The Lynx jumped out to an early lead, and the Tempo were not able to catch up. They ended up losing the game 100-72. The team is back on the court tomorrow when they take on the Portland Fire at home, Coca-Cola Coliseum.
The Blue Jays will be looking for a 3rd straight win tonight when they begin a series with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And a fly ball to left field, headed towards the seats. It's gone!
George Springer gave the Jays a 2-0 lead with a solo shot in the 7th inning of their series finale with the New York Yankees last night. The Jays were able to hold on for a 2-0 win to split the 4-game set with the Yankees. The team is back home tonight with Kevin Gausman set to start in the series opener against the Pirates. First pitch is set for just after 7. And outfielder Miles Straw is the latest player to be featured in our hometown team series.
The Gold Glove winner shared what he loves about Toronto and playing for the Blue Jays.
Deep center, Straw's back, jumps, he's got it!
Born in California, moved when I was about 2, and then lived in Bradenton, Florida ever since. So 29 years of living in Florida. My dad got me going, my dad and my brothers, they both got me going at an early age. And then honestly, my mom had a big part as well. She used to get out and throw with me and do all the baseball stuff as well. I used to throw the ball pretty hard at her, and she would be in the backyard sitting on the bucket and catching some of these pitches and stuff. So, you know, she always brought me to all my practices and stuff and games, so it means the world to me. I mean, I just like to hang out with friends, go on my boat, go to the sandbar, food. Just a pretty relaxing guy. I like to just hang out with friends for the most part.
And he
just pokes it into shallow right. It's going to drop. How about Miles Straw?
What do you love about Toronto?
I love the stadium, the food, the fans, the city alone, the weather. I like the seasons. Just how much everyone appreciates you and cares for you, as far as our trainers and the coaches, the front office, the team alone. It's just like a big family here, and you never know what you're going to run into, especially being a new guy last year. So I truly love the team, and it's fun to come here every day and to be with these guys, and I enjoy it really.
Still to come, a new ruling from the CRTC means digital streamers will soon have to pay more for Canadian content. We'll have those details when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A new report from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business finds there's a disconnect between applicants and employers at every stage of the hiring process.
And that's creating more challenges for young people who are already struggling to find work. CTV's Natalie Van Roy has the story.
Training protocols, it really depends on the position here.
At this small business in Ottawa, there's a lot of demand to get a job.
I probably have 500 resumes on my desk at any given time.
When Cody Nickel is hiring people starting out in the hospitality business, he says there can be challenges.
I think that there's just a need to temper expectations a little bit. I think sometimes with the younger generation, there can be an expectation to kind of move up in the world a little bit faster than might be realistic.
A new report from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business finds there's disconnect at every stage of the hiring process, from where to search for jobs to the skills needed and the expectations.
That youth come in with perhaps unrealistic salary expectations. And we've also heard from small businesses that what they prioritize most is soft skills, so people skills, motivation, coming in and taking initiative.
During challenging economic times, business owners say the expectations can be higher than the current situation.
It's a little tight financially with the labor cost. For people with no experience, we do pay them minimum wage right now. I guess a lot of people have expectations that it should be $20 or $21 or $22 an hour.
While Alina Khan already has a part-time job, she's searching for a second one to make ends meet.
1 week, you will have enough hours to pay your rent and everything, but the second week, you won't have any hours. So it will be really problematic for us.
Khan says she feels she needs a reference to get in the door.
You have to have a reference or any employee working there to just push it.
And that's another finding from the CFIB.
Businesses rely a lot more on personal connections. So 62% rely on personal connections to recruit.
If you are looking for a job this summer, managers offer these tips.
The most important thing is reliability and attitude. If they can show up on time and they can come in with a great attitude and be willing to work hard and to learn every single day.
My priority is when I see the employee's personality is willing to learn, they're willing to work hard.
Natalie Van Roy, CTV News.
A new ruling from the CRTC means digital streamers will soon have to pay more for Canadian content. The move means online streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus will have to contribute 15% of their Canadian revenue to Canadian content, up from 5%. Meanwhile, traditional broadcasters will see their amount lowered down to 25%. The CRTC says the changes will amount to $2 billion in funding. However, some U.S. politicians claim the policies discriminate against American companies.
Stephen Colbert signed off for a final time last night after 11 seasons behind the desk of The Late Show.
I'll say to you what I've said to every audience for the last 11 years, and I have meant it every time. Have a good show. Thanks for being here. And let's do it, y'all.
Last summer, CBS announced the show would be ending, citing economic reasons. However, some critics, including Colbert himself, questioned whether political pressure played a role, as Colbert has been a vocal opponent of the U.S. president. Paul McCartney was his special guest, and he performed as part of the finale in the same theater where the Beatles made their U.S. debut on The Ed Sullivan Show all the way back in 1964.
All right. You are watching CTV News at noon. Stay with us. People will have a chance to go behind the scenes at some of the most famous city attractions this weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, Doors Open Toronto is inviting people to explore more than 160 buildings with guided tours and special programs across the city. For the first time this year, people can get a tour inside the CN Tower. Other sites welcoming visitors include City Hall, Netflix Canada, and the historic Dawn Jail.
And you'll probably want to get indoors this weekend, especially Saturday's the big wet one, the Super Soaker.
I have a feeling a few people are pivoting their plans, and I like that. Super Soaker Saturday. That's what it's going to be. This is what we're waking up to. So depending on how early you are rising, you might encounter some dry weather first, but by mid and late morning, we're going to be into this with some showers to start, steady rain as the day goes on. And on top of all that, it's going to be windy with gusty easterly winds. And look at that, our forecast daytime high is only about 11 degrees. We've said it a lot this week, cool for this time of year, but you're really going to feel it tomorrow, so don't forget the jacket. Hey, it's not just us dealing with rainy weather this weekend. If you're headed to Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix, Sunday looks a little unsettled too. We should get some improvement on Sunday. It's still unsettled in the morning, but the afternoon drier and a high of 20 degrees. I like what I see next week with some sunshine and temperatures back where they should be, or slightly warmer than normal. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, lots to look forward to. Thanks, Lindsay. And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.